And we're back again. Can't keep a good man down, and that's why we keep coming back up. We have the Saints moving up 7 places to get their man. Who is it, Big Q?
Johnny Manziel. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
didn't they have the market cornered on short quarterbacks?
That's
he
right.
wishes. He wishes the Saints were picking him. No, I think it is Denard from Michigan State, just because he is the perfect fit for the defensive style that Rob Ryan runs, which is similar to his brother Rex in New York, where they need press corners.
Well, I do have
Hey, what's up, man?
Denard slated for
I'm
number
back.
20, so I
Oh,
hope so.
just oh,
Denard.
Oh, no, you didn't, Q.
You like that, right?
Oh, that is nice.
What I missed? What Q?
Oh,
Look on the screen.
let me get my clock
Oh.
back. Let me get my clock
That's awesome.
back. Okay, let's get the clock back up here. Hold on. Where is that? Okay.
Oh, man.
There we go.
All right, so with Denard coming off the board and the Cardinals moving back to 27, I wonder if that affected Aaron's thinking where they will go Johnny Manziel. Cleveland picks 26th is why I say that, and I think Cleveland. I know they brought in Manziel for workouts and they met with him, so I think that could be where he ends up going at 26. Here we go. They're getting ready to make their pick now.
Oh, this is who the Saints jumped up for. Let's see who they get.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, wow. That's terrible. That's why they
Oh
jump like
my.
that.
That makes sense. I had him going to Philly, so they had to get in front of Philadelphia to get him.
Yeah. That's kind of sad.
I cannot believe that.
So now they got him and Kenny Stills.
And Colston. And Graham.
Well, yeah, but
I'm not happy about this at all. Wow, you see that Diesel girl?
well, again, just get to the quarterback so we don't have time to do it. While they're not picking linemen to stop our pass rush. So that's one way to look at it.
all right, guys, I'm back finally. After some difficulties, look, Brandon Cooks. I told you, did I not tell you guys? Brandon Cooks and the Saints. But what we got here right now is we got Matt. Don't hate because he always wins the fantasy football draft. Eighthcock on the phone to talk about some of the things that we've seen throughout the draft that could impact our fantasy lineups coming up and some things going on. Matt, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sorry for the second. This is our second difficulty right now of the night. So we are. What did you say, Joey? You can't keep a good man down?
That's right. Can't keep a good man down.
Okay, Matt. So what we brought you on tonight to talk about is this: is that you're watching the draft, and I know you personally, and you are always kind of following the fantasy football line. What sticks out to you? Because we've got a guy up here, Ken, that is paying close attention because he won his fantasy football league last year, so he thinks he should be the fantasy insider. So tell us, what should we be talking about when it comes to fantasy football when we're looking at this first round of the NFL draft?
All right. Well, the first thing that comes up right now is going to be the major effects on teams. So far, for normal fantasy leagues, we haven't seen any major studs. If you're in an IDP league, Clowney's obviously going to be a great choice. You're going to want to go for him, top 5 prospect, any day of the week. But when it comes down to just normal standard leagues, the big stories here are going to be on the Falcons, picking up Jake Matthews. Now, it's an offensive lineman. Now, that sounds like a boring pick, but what it's going to do for them is it's going to make Matt Ryan hurting. This is the kind of move that the Falcons need to be making if they want to make Ryan viable again, which is going to help the value of Julio Jones and everybody else on the team. And I've got basically the same story going on when it comes to the Rams. This is going to be with Greg Robinson. He's going to be amazing for Zach Stacy's value. You're going to be looking at him as being a running back number 1 going to the draft easy.
What do you think about the guy that's the receiver? And Joe, you can help me out with this. Who is the receiver from St. Louis that they took last year that could break out? He started to show flashes.
Tavon Austin.
Tavon Austin. So do you think that that's the type of pick that could really increase his value?
Tavon Austin was kind of a disappointment last year in the fantasy sector. A lot of people were talking about him, but yes, I do feel like things like this are what are going to help his value a lot. It's definitely going to move him up on the charts.
Right on, right on. Okay, so tell us this, because we're kind of, tuned into the NFC South, is how tough is Mike Evans for Tampa Bay? What do you see him doing? Is he a guy that people are going to be looking to pick up in some rounds for fantasy football?
Now, Mike Evans is a good football player. He's big. He's large. He's going to be a great red zone target, which means he's got good upside. Now, the fact that he's on a team with an easy quarterback, Glennon's we're going to be watching him, and you've always got Vincent Jackson there, so he's never going to be putting up wide receiver 1 numbers. The way I'm looking at it now is he's a low-end wide receiver 3 with some major upside here. We'll see what the offense there at Tampa Bay can do, and we'll have to take a look at him a lot in the preseason.
Yeah, I think there is that he might be a kind of, I won't say sleeper pick, but Vincent Jackson is starting to age and show some signs that they got their 2 years out of him for the big money, and he's still going to be there. But he's going to take the number 1 corner, so that might leave Mike Evans, like you're saying, a nice target. He's not a number 1. But he could be putting up some fantasy value. Now, Joey, you got to ask him about what New Orleans did. What are you thinking, Joey? What do you want to know from our fantasy insider, Matt Don't Hate Hathcock, about what New Orleans just did with the trade?
All right, Matt, what impact do you see Cooks having in the fantasy value of Drew Brees, for example?
The Saints?
Yes, because Brandon Cooks.
To be honest with you, as talented as Brandon Cook is, I really would have loved to see him come to the Panthers. It's the Saints. There's just too many targets there. There's too much going on. I mean, he's going to be good, but he's just not going to get enough looks in the red zone. I wouldn't mess with him unless you're in a really deep league.
Can he come in and fill the same role that Darren Sproles did while he was there?
I think they used Darren Sproles a lot more as like a specialty kind of guy. They would usually return things, and he was like a passing running back. I know they didn't ever really think of him as a true running back. Here, Thomas was the closest thing they had to that. But I don't see Brandon Cook being. I mean, he could be used as a slot receiver, but I don't know, not really as like a transition kind of multiple position kind of player like Darren Sproles.
Okay, so you don't see him.
Sproles was a scat back.
But see, Sproles played more of a receiver role. He really, the fact that they even call him a running back is like calling Jimmy Graham a tight end.
In fantasy, that makes all the difference though, where you can put him on the board.
Yeah,
third down running back.
Because you're going to get PPR, points per catch, or whatever they call it in fantasy. But here's my question with Brandon Cooks, Matt, is when you are drafting for your fantasy team, how much do you factor into a guy that, look, he's going to be a top target out there, and he's going to be a playmaker that can really do some damage, but he also has the ability to contribute on special teams. And so this idea that he could potentially be doing kick returns, punt returns, when you're drafting a team, how often do you find that is that something that you try to factor in, just like a guy that catches a lot of passes, that you can pick up a couple of hidden points?
Well, obviously, if you're a PPR league, you're going to be wanting to look for stuff like that. And the Saints are always great in PPR. Just they move the ball around a lot. There's going to be a lot of passing plays on offense. I also feel like that. It looks like we have a big tone up here with the Packers.
Yeah.
The Green Bay Packers select Clayton Dix.
Oh, he could have been a Panther.
Dang.
Okay, so with this is that what are you seeing? All right, so what we saw is we're starting to see a transition with the tight end heavy league, guys that are picking big corners to try to battle this really pass heavy offense. Matt, we haven't seen a running back yet, have we? What does that tell you? Does this increase the running back's value in fantasy football or decrease it? Because I tend to think that there's just less good ones out there.
Well, there are definitely less feature backs. You're looking at, with so much risk of injury and wearing people out, and it's such a long, rough season on that position. When you have a real superstar, it is a rare find. So running back isn't always will be the most valuable position in fantasy. Now, if you want to talk PPR and the way that the modern game is being played, yes, running backs, you can win without them, without having great running backs. You don't have to have necessarily a superstar to take your lead. You have a guy like Calvin Johnson or a really consistent, high-scoring receiver. Now, today, you're talking about big bodies, tall guys. Those are a lot of the guys that are out there that are making the plays happen. These tight ends, though, I don't know. Fantasy-wise, tight ends are such a finicky position. I think that has a little less impact than that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things is that, to me, the more these guys come off the board, the more and more that, offensives transition to where they're just not emphasizing a featured back, are we all scrambling to find that one guy that is still the featured back? And Joe, what do you think about that? Joe, get in there and ask Matt about this concept of who do we target and right now we're thinking this is where is Johnny, and that's kind of what we're going to be feeling when I'm drafting my fantasy football team. What do you think about that, Joe?
I think it's tough to find that feature back because all teams are going to more passing. The league is becoming more of a passing league, so you see less emphasis on the run, and when you do run the ball, you see usually a tandem. And I think that's going to be a problem for fantasy football players this year is finding that back that's going to get the bulk of the carries or the bulk of the touches. Really, I think the value is going to be placed on the backs like Mike Tolbert, who, when teams get in the red zone, they're going to be more inclined to get chances at scoring, and that's where they're going to get their points versus yardage. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that, Matt?
Well, I feel like the running backs have always been such an important position because of their consistency, and that's because they always get yards. I mean, even great receivers do whole games where they don't get a catch. Most good feature backs are going to get 20 carries, and it's just part of the strategy. So, I don't know. I feel like those, the guys when you're targeting the red zone, it's very important that you want your running back to score a lot, but I just don't see a guy like Mike Tolbert becoming a running back one type just because of his red zone potential.
Oh, well, you know what? Joey, you might have brought us into something, and I'm going to ask Ken to get into this conversation too. Is that how much does this say something about the running quarterback? Is that maybe transitioning to become? Look, the running quarterback was in vogue in fantasy football when Cam Newton was there. There's been a couple of guys that have really gotten us some fantasy points, but then it seems to kind of go back to the kind of traditional, pocket passer type of guy over the last 2 years, especially since RG3 has gotten hurt. So my question is this: no running backs coming off the board. There seems to be less and less. So Joey's saying this is that when they get to the red zone, you're going to try to feature a big guy just to pound it in. But does that big guy become a running quarterback now, Matt?
Well, running quarterbacks obviously become really important for football. That's why we're talking about NFL so much. That's why Cam and the Panthers have been so deadly in the red zone. There's so many options. You have a big guy like Gobert to punch it in. You got a little guy that can scramble like D'Angelo to run down the outside. And you never know when Cam's just going to Superman jump over the whole line. So I think that having a big guy in the red zone is always important. And but I don't think that being big is necessarily an important thing when it comes to being a running quarterback. It helps Cam out a lot. But, I mean, really with the running quarterback, RG3 is the only one who's been a huge disappointment. You look at guys like Kaepernick and Wilson and Cam who have all, grew up, learning to play football when Mike Vick was becoming a huge sensation. And they all had a lot of great success. You look at a little guy like Russell Wilson, who, moves well outside of the pocket, a very mobile quarterback, not necessarily a running quarterback, but definitely very mobile. And he just beat the crap out of a 6'5", 250-pound legend.
Yeah. Ken, I'm going to put on – I would say that we could make Ken a fantasy expert, but he's too busy being our lead writer. So he can't wear too many hats. And the reason I say this is he won the fantasy football league that Joey and I played in. Now, I quit this league because my whole team got hurt. So I just started the same guys, and they still stunk. But, Ken, what question do you have for Matt when it comes to planning for fantasy football this early?
I guess given a standard scoring system, the scoring system is going to depend on how you approach the draft. But do you still think it's important to get your running backs in first, just because you got so many wide receivers that produce and so few bell cow running backs? Or should you go get your Calvin Johnson guy or your big quarterback first, and then knowing that there's just that handful of running backs there, and if you're not drafted in the top 5, it's kind of hard to get those kinds of guys anyway. What are your feelings on how that's changing?
I've always been a proponent of getting running backs early and often. It pays off to have talent and depth in that position. And last year is a prime example because so many people who put all of their money into one good running back in the first round just got completely ripped off. And I feel like if you invest in a couple of guys early, it'll pay off. It's worth playing the numbers. Now, when it comes to early rounds, though, yeah, mix it up. If there's a great quarterback, if you've got if you want Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning, and he is there, and the running back, you think you can deal with the second and third pick running back, the back of the quarterback, yeah, that's a good choice. It's not such a running back isn't so necessary anymore. And I think Calvin Johnson is a great example of an alternative. Because the point of a running back is that they're consistent, they're going to get you points every week.
Johnny Football's gone.
Look, Johnny Manziel just went to the Browns. All right, well, look, Matt, you're the perfect guy. You're the perfect guy to have on at this very moment, Johnny.
That's funny.
There's small level quarterbacks like, Wilson, your guys that can move around quick like Kaepernick, your runners like Cam Newton. They all do really well on teams with a good defense, a good running game that can ground and pound. And Cleveland has the potential to do that now. Running back position has no problem for them, but it looks like they're really making some efforts to do some stuff there. Now, you put a guy like Manziel in there to get a team revved up, to get a city like Cleveland revved up about the Browns, which they needed so much. I think that he can really have some success here. Now, it may not be an ideal fit for him, but with a young group of guys like the Browns, you know, young studs like Josh Gordon out there that he can rely on, and he can go out there and rub his fingers together, I think he's going to have a lot of success there in the Browns.
Yeah.
I think this is a good move for them, and I think fantasy-wise for Manziel, this makes him a clear quarterback too. Take him if you can get him late in the draft. If you're in a two-quarterback league, he might be a nice option there. He's not going to be a quarterback one. I know he's flashy and everybody likes him, and he runs and moves, or you love him or you hate him. But if you're looking at a two-quarterback league or a backup, you want to talk about upside, this is the guy to have.
Yeah, I think that this is a great fit, Matt. And, man, your fantasy knowledge, I got to say this, is that can you just draft my team for me next year?
Let me get in here and say a couple things. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the year that Aaron Rodgers waited to get drafted, didn't he get picked 22nd?
24th, I think.
I don't know.
It
I
was
don't know if it was.
Okay.
I feel like it was later, but good Lord.
Yeah. The next thing I want to say is, with Manziel on the Browns, didn't the Browns get Ben Tate from Houston as a free agent, Matt?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Which I think is huge for them. Ben Tate needs to be a running back one. He will play 20 snaps. He'll do 20 carries a game, no problem. I think that he was being totally hindered when he was in Houston by the shadow of Arian Foster. But this is going to be his ability to break out. And you get a team like this that's been rebuilding really bad. I mean, last year, everybody thought they were collapsing, and then we're surprised they were doing so well, and then there was a collapse. It's the Browns. This is the kind of piece they put the puzzle together with. This is the kind of thing that Kansas City did last year when they took a terrible team, put a couple pieces in, and all of a sudden you've got a good squad. You get a good defensive team like the Browns who do have a good defense, and you got a good running back, good running game, good defense, local quarterback. That's the key to success. That's how the Panthers are going to do it. That's how the Seahawks did it last year. It's the new formula that works, and I'd be happy to see it work here. I'm optimistic. I think it's a good fit.
Oh, wow. You know what, Joe? This is what, we have to have, and we're going to go ahead and announce it right now. Special announcement with Matt Don't Hate Hatecock, because he always beats you in fantasy football, is that Carolina Cat Chronicles will be opening our very own fantasy football league this year, where it is going to be kind of centered at our site. Essentially, we're obviously going to run it through a site that features fantasy football, but what we're going to try to do is generate a Cat Chronicles fantasy football league. And since you are now, by whether you like it or not, because we're always going to call you our fantasy football expert, I suppose that you will be in the league or at least be the commissioner. How do you feel?
I would be more than